Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to this series. I know it's been a long time. It's the 9th episode today. And what we want to talk about is peacekeeping in the home. And the reason why we want to talk about this is because we are spending a great deal of time in our homes. And although the lockdown measures have eased up slightly and gradually they'll be easing up even more as well, but the majority of us are still spending a lot of time in our homes. And we weren't really used to this in a pre-pandemic world. And so we're seeing the same faces day in, day out, and this can actually cause a bit of friction between two or even more people within the household. And that's why it's so essential that we actually talk about the do's and don'ts of the household, the things that we should be doing and the things that we should not be doing. And just to begin this episode off with, I'd like to give an example of Hazrat Masih Maud, who's the perfect exemplar for us. And once we see in a narration that he actually raised his voice to his wife. He didn't shout, he just raised his voice. And he was so upset by this that he immediately refrained from saying anything which would be hurtful, anything which would be a bit mean, which would hurt his wife. And immediately after, he offered nawafil, he gave sadaqah, and of course he spent so much time in istighfar as well, seeking the forgiveness of Allah the Almighty. And this is the example that we should be following. Not that we say whatever we want to our partners or to our parents or to our siblings or to our children and then after that we apologize. No, we should be proactive rather than reactive, and rather than saying things that you don't mean in the heat of the moment and then regretting it later. We can see from this example of Hazrat Masih Maud that immediately he just raises his voice a little bit, and immediately after that he refrained from saying anything else which would hurt her. And he spent so much time in istighfar, in nawafil and sadaqah as well. I'm going to show you a few video clips prepared by the Glasgow Jamaat showing us how siblings should act and shouldn't act with one another, how children should be acting and shouldn't be acting towards their parents, and how partners should and shouldn't act with one another as well.
Kaisab said today there would be a picnic.
I'm not going.
It is hot and lovely weather and you should be going out.
I told you, I'm not going.
10 minutes later.
Dad, let's just get earlier on.
Shouldn't have spoken to my dad like that. I'm sorry, Dad. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that.
Martha! It's okay, son, but you always have to learn from your mistakes.
Okay, Dad. I'm hungry.
Kalle!
Musa, please turn the PS4 off now. You must breakfast, now it's time for lunch.
No, it's my choice.
Aww.
10 minutes later.
Musa, please turn the PS4 off now.
No, you can't make me.
Don't talk back to me.
Musa, you shouldn't speak to your mom like that. That is rude. Turn it off.
No.
Mom! Big brother! Come here!
What's happening here?
He hit me!
Go to your room and talk to your big brother.
Musa, I've heard enough of this. Please turn it off now.
No.
I'll do it myself.
You can't make me do it.
Musa, don't talk to your mum like that. Respect her. She does everything for you. In the Holy Quran, it says, Rabbar hamuma huma rabbi and sagira.
And the Holy Quran also said, Jawab ke apne Abu Bakr don't go with me, Abu.
So say sorry to her.
Sorry.
It's okay, beta. Let's have lunch together.
Musa, don't forget who will make you the yummy snacks for the World Cup final today. Your mom.
Wifey, make me some little snack now. I'm tired and hungry from work. Make it yourself. Don't speak like that again.
well, goodbye.
This could have been handled differently.
Hello, John. How you doing? And how was your day today?
Yeah, it was fine. I just had a busy day with the kids.
Okay, I'm a bit tired from work, so can you make me a little snack? Oh, should I help you as well?
No, it's fine. I'll put you a little snack here.
What's this?
Your snack.
I know it's my snack, but I'm not gonna have it until you sit next to me, sweetie.
Oh, you're always being romantic.
So that was some examples of how we should and shouldn't be acting within our households from the Glasgow Jamaat, and some more advice or some tips that I would like to give following the tips and the guidance that the Holy Prophet ﷺ has given Hazrat Masih Maud along with the Khulafa as well. And that is that if anything happens or if you get upset by something and you're lying down, sit up. If you're sitting down, then stand up. If you're standing up, then maybe walk out of the room. Another thing that you can do is maybe just have a glass of water and drink it, cool yourself down. And another piece of advice that I like to give, following the guidance from the Khulafa, is that if one person is the fire, is angry, is hot-headed, then it's up to the other party, the other person, to be the water at that time and to extinguish the matter and the problem and resolve it, rather than both of you being flared up and making the argument much worse than it was to begin with. And so even if you know that you're in the right and your partner or whoever the other party is, whoever the other person is, if they've done something wrong and they're adamant that they're right, even in that scenario, what you should do is sit back, maybe leave the room, just be quiet, don't say anything which you would regret later, and then later on, when you feel as if your partner or whoever that person was has come to their senses, they've cooled down a bit, then at that time you can speak to them and say that maybe you should have acted in this way rather than what you had done, or you should have said this instead of what you had said. And together, when you have this discussion, then you'll be able to resolve things. And remember, communication is absolutely key when it comes to making relationships work. Whether it's our relationship with Allah the Almighty, of course we have to pray to Him, we have to speak to Him, we have this communion with Him, we converse with Him, and only then can we establish a stronger relationship with Him. It's through talking to Him, it's through this communion. And whether it's our partners, our parents, our siblings, our neighbors, our family members, our relatives, whoever it may be, we can only make these relationships work if we have this dialogue, if we have communications with one another. If something is upsetting you or is hurting you, then rather than just bottling it in and just being quiet about it and saying that, oh, matters will resolve it themselves, what you should do is talk about them. And I'm telling you, this dialogue is absolutely necessary. Another tip that I like to give is, if you have had an argument, if you've had some sort of disagreement, then before you go to bed, before you sleep, you should resolve that matter. And what that will do is it will ensure that you sleep peacefully with security, and once you wake up, then there's no problems at all. But if you don't do this, then what you'll see on the flip side of this is that your whole night will be full of stress, and then once you wake up, you see the same face again, and then it makes you even more angry, and the matters will not resolve like this. And so I'm telling you, it's absolutely essential for you to have this communion, have this talk, and remember, don't let your ego get in the way of things. Okay, so the one of the best advices over here that we can give is for you to not think of your ego, not say that, oh, I'm too big to apologize, or I'm too big to say sorry, or I'm too big to be the smaller person and actually say that I was in the wrong. No, of course not. If you are wrong, or even if you weren't wrong, take that step, be the bigger person, and try to resolve these matters. And I would like to end with a hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and what he said was that خيركم خيركم لأهله وأنا خيركم لأهلي, which is that the best among you is the one who is best in their treatment to their wives, and I, the Holy Prophet ﷺ says that I am the best in treatment to my wives. And may we all take this moment to better ourselves, to be the bigger people, and be more forgiving and compassionate in our ways as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.